the show tonight. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Well, I'm really happy to have you on board here for Ostara. This is very nice. Happy Ostara.
Oh yes, that's always a great time of year.
It is. It's kind of auspicious to have you on tonight. So let everybody know what you've been up to, John. You look great. I saw your picture on Facebook, and you look all tan, and you look just like a Nordic warrior.
Yeah, I'm well. Actually, I'm more red than tan. I kind of started out with a little bit of a tan, and then one of our listeners, Chris Kunkel, he's a listener from this show here, was down visiting with his mom and an aunt, and decided to come out and spend a few hours with me in the afternoon. So we went down to the Red Reef Park and the beach, and went for a swim and had dinner and talked and had a great day together. And that tan just burned like crazy. The sun is wicked down here.
Is it really? So you'd think you wouldn't get so tan, I guess, but yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't have thought so. Yeah,
it's the
I was a
elevation.
little surprised.
Or maybe no elevation.
No,
That's
no
interesting.
elevation
I was going to
here.
say,
Yeah,
it shouldn't be burning like that, but it could be just something else. But yeah, well, you look great. It's good to see you
I
there.
feel pretty good.
Yeah. So how's your health doing? How's the supplements and all that? Are you still taking those?
Yes, and I'll probably be taking a few more besides. My seizures and stuff are increasing. Before they were just calling it originally left spastic hemiparesis. I'd get this flailing left arm due to some stroke damage. Now they're calling it full-blown epilepsy. Though I haven't had anything like grand mal seizures, just these little 1 second and 2 second deals, kind of ranges everywhere from a twitch to a 2 second full body boogaloo,
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm wondering how much of that is due to the MK Ultra versus.
Well, yeah. When you look at those MRIs, when the neurologist saw me this week and I brought him my disc from the last place that I had him, and he says, "Oh, you're going to be a very complicated man."
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, you sound good. You sound really relaxed, and I know I could use a cup of coffee right now, but hey, we'll get through it. So I'm going to give you the floor tonight. Insofar as this is pretty casual, but whatever you want to address tonight is up is just fine by me. Insofar as what you want to talk about, and there's so much going on here in America. It seems like we're at a pivot point, in crisis. Insofar as we're always in a crisis in the illusion of, but it seems like people are really escalating, energetically speaking. You're kind of seeing it. I believe we've touched on how the Pandora's box has been opened, and it's just like everything is going into this maelstrom of hostility, and people are really starting to have conflict with each other over stupid things.
Oh, that's truly it. I think I was just posting through some stuff that I was writing, and I posted one onto the Skype there before we came on the air there. That the amazing thing about studying arcane wisdom is you learn that you cannot ignore the reality of dreams, but yet when you look around you, most people don't realize what they think of reality is totally the stuff of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
People look at the homeless out on the streets and they pity them or they despise them, living on handouts and just marking the time between seasons. But they don't often realize that they are just as homeless as those living out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is simply in the hearts of those having no spiritual center, wandering through life with no real sense of who you really are or where you belong, having no cause, no purpose, just sitting in cubicles or factories or behind someone else's cash registers, passing the time between paychecks and seasons. Our lives become someone else's lives as their cattle or even stable.
Mm-hmm.
Those like chains are imposed upon us in our false lives, and we know that we are meant for better things. We just simply get too distracted by life in this paradigm to look for them.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was talking to Chris the other day, basically he was noticing this for himself. And he was very unhappy with a lot of things in his life, and it seemed like, well, gee, I obtained this, I got these belongings, I own these cars, this should be great stuff, I should be happy, but I'm not. And I'm just kind of screwing things up and blowing things, and it's because I don't see the value in them anymore, but I don't know quite what I want.
Right. Yeah.
And And this is the imbalance caused, but that's a good thing though, because it's people realizing that those things aren't real. They just got to find out what is.
Exactly. Well, the whole thing is, if people let go of the wheel to some extent and just surrender into the streams of creation and the illusion of, we always know how to navigate home through consciousness, in my opinion, anyway. It's always been like that, through spirit, through consciousness. But you're so right about the paradigm right now, and I believe that people are so empty and disconnected that this hostility is keeping them. It's just creating this rifting effect. And if they
Right.
would
It
just
gives them some kind of cause, us
Mhm.
against them.
Right.
They don't realize that essentially it's still that division that's allowing them to be ruled, and that their masters are absolutely psychotic.
Oh my gosh. And you know what's really interesting? Aren't they showing their colors, John? I mean, really, now
Oh,
you're seeing it for what it really is. Look at these corporate cabals. Look at their filth. I mean, they're not even holding back now.
not even a little bit. And
Yeah.
people still aren't seeing it. They're still thinking, well, if we vote for this guy, we're going to be delivered. And it's kind of like, I don't, I just can't understand how they can go on believing that.
Well, you know what it is? The entire paradigm, as you were saying, the whole thing doesn't work. The system doesn't work. The forced religions don't work. Nothing, none of it works. It never did. It was always a smoke screen and I can't even speak tonight. A smoke screen and a false matrix. I knew I should have had my coffee. But
Yeah.
it's seriously, that's what it boils down to. It's just one big facade and illusion.
Yeah, they'll give them, they'll give them one thing. They're looking for a thing, and it's a matter of they're looking for something. They don't know exactly what it is. And what this paradigm, there's always an authority somewhere, a religious authority, political authority, psychological authority, or something like that, educational or academic authority, that will give them well, we have this spiritual loss. And what they'll give them instead is they'll bring in some preacher to fire them up and give them a religious fervor, and that's not exactly the same. Well, actually, it's not like a spiritual awakening. Like there's the difference between a religious fervor and a spiritual awakening is the former is the result of the internal over prioritizing of a tightly held religious belief, even if it's a true one. It's entirely an internal reaction, having little or no connection outside of the zealot who's so affected by it to begin with. While the awakening opens up the awareness of the individuals and those things and events around them, where once the things that once were secrets kept from them, they start to learn them. See, they become aware more of the outside. The religious zealot, they're just everything's internalized. So no matter what's happening on the outside, they're not really connected to it. If you're miserable or if this person's hurt or injured, they don't connect. They don't get it. The collateral damage of dronings and that, well, that's just them Muslim folks, and then that's us and them again, and that's all right because they hate us for our freedom. And it's kind of like, yeah, they hate you for your freedom of transgressing their borders and blowing the hell out of their people when you're not even at war with them, and destroying their families with no evidence, nothing against them except that, hey, somebody sitting behind a joystick decided, hey, that fella's turban looks wrapped a little too tight today. They get all, like I says, everything kind of drawn inward, and completely they disconnected them from their empathy.
Very much so. Well, like I said, I don't think they're connected to anything higher in spirit. That's the bottom line. And if people were connected, they wouldn't be acting the way they are. But what really concerns me is that I believe that there are sleeper cells that are really being activated right now here in America. And it could be possibly connected to MK Ultra, early MK Ultra, or it could be something else. But I'm seeing a lot of youth of America, John. I've been profiling a lot of this stuff, just observing as a neutral, and it's interesting because I'm seeing these guys being triggered, and something's triggering them big time.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I've been talking to people. Some of them, the trigger's not working so well. And there was some interesting corroborations that come up. I've been talking with several people in the last couple of weeks, and it's an interesting thing because some of them have got these crazy tunes and lyrics playing through their head, and I believe a great deal of this stuff is psychotronic, pulsings and things that's just pissing them off, so to speak, making them angry. I mean, there's a lot to really be angry about, but it's kind of, useless being angry for nothing. If you're just kind of fuming up, all it's doing is raising your blood pressure, and nothing's being accomplished. If it calls you to action, well, that's another deal entirely. But this is not the case. This is like stirring them up. They're going to be pissed, and then and I already know from experience what the next thing is. They get you wound up, give you that patriotic speech. This may take place, in your head or maybe outside of your head. They give you the Star Spangled Banner, and we gotta protect against the communist threat and all that other kind of stuff, and you need to do this for your country and give up your rights and all that other kind of stuff. And these guys are the threat, and then comes the target. Get them all worked up and the hate speech done, and they're lesser people in ours. They don't even count as human beings. So when you're killing them, there's really no great sin in it. This kind of crap has been going since the Holy Wars, from Constantine's time on, and probably before that. I mean, the same mind control works the same way over and over and over again from time immemorial. But that's what the next deal is. But some people, they're kind of getting it. They hear it. They're annoyed by it. But I noticed something there, and I had, like I said, a couple conversations, and what got me is they were diverse people, not even related or knowing each other. Kip isn't even on Facebook with me, and there's a lot of these other people that are on Facebook with me, and they're talking about, I wonder why the government gets so upset about marijuana in particular. And, keep talking about it as a dangerous drug, and yet they'll promote all these other drugs that are definitely dangerous. I mean, you just see the commercials. Ask your doctor about such and such. And then, we love our kid, and when he can't pay attention in school, we want the best for him. Side effects may include sudden deaths, thoughts of suicide, a stroke, mental illness, signs of developing or old mental illness should be reported. I mean, we love our kid, and you're going to give him this pill, all right? Give him a joint, for Christ's sake. But there's a thing somebody had brought up, that because it makes you think, and a lot of people like to make jokes on how potheads think. Oh man, what if the moon was really made of cream cheese? And but the thing is they tend to start thinking out of the box, and they don't like you thinking there. Mm-hmm. You don't look at things directly the same way all the time when you're under the influence of this stuff. Now, I wouldn't do this if I was going to do lab work or something like that. But if I was relaxing at home, I would. And it's kind of like, that's really a good thing. That's what meditation's about. A lot of times, just taking a thing and mulling it over in a different perspective to learn something new from it. And a lot of these people had pointed out that, when they'd start smoking a little bit, and that's when a lot of this stuff wasn't affecting them the same way. They start losing that hold on the paradigm, or the paradigm start losing its hold on them. And I had to look back on my own life when I broke off, when I went renegade or off the reservation from MK Ultra. Well, I still went a couple years after that, but and I it was amazing. It was kind of like, what is it, Stockholm syndrome or something like that? I mean, I knew how wicked and evil they were, and the awful things they did to kids, and the things that happened to them. And I have a hard time. I look back and I says, exactly what was keeping me obeying these people for so long. And it got to the point where me and my second wife split up, and I was really crazy in love with her, and I obsessed about her. And when you're a remote viewer and you just split up, and your ex-wife's a bit of a nymphomaniac kind of. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what is she doing? Where's she with? You really don't want to know. There's nothing you can do about it, nothing you can do for her. Anything you do would be destructive, self-destructive. You just don't really want to know. So I start drinking myself to sleep at night. Of course, the next morning, I'd be sick, I'd be hungover, and a buddy of mine named Corey, back then, this was back in Colorado Springs, back in the 70s, mid 70s, thereabouts, and he says, buddy, he says, you need to loosen up. You look like hell. He says, I'm going out to buy a lid during lunch. You want a lid? And he said, yeah, pick me up. Picks me up this large bag of Mexican grass, and he only charged me like $12 because he pinched a little out of it. And I smoked that thing. I said, well, when I get home, got everything done. I'll put a little in a bowl, smoke it before I go to bed, put on some music, and I slept good. I didn't obsess. I just kind of heck with it, just enjoy the music. Woke up the next morning, went to work, and when the heartache start hitting me, I just promised myself when I got home, I'm on, and everything's done, and I don't have to face anybody, drive the car, or anything like that. I was really worried at first about this. But my views did, for a couple years I did that after that, just to help me cope, get through it. I had a lot of trauma in that from MK Ultra too, and it helped. And but I also started looking at things a little different. That was about the time where more and more things would go sideways, and it's kind of like, wait a minute. The only way these people could know I was coming is if the people who sent us told them, because here we are slipping across the border, what they call black boys. You don't even have no ID. You don't even have tags in your underwear to show where you bought them from. I mean, it's that secret. And of course, if anything happens to you, the government disavows any information. And as far as any authorities are concerned, you're just maybe a rival gang of thugs warring it out between the drug lords, So I start looking at things over and over again. Man, we're being sold out. And finally, I said, no, this is the last time. And the spooks sent a couple guys to kind of lean on me a bit, and it didn't go well for them. And I pretty much dodged them for a while, come back out again and says, hey, if you want this thing to be really public, you'll go ahead and try to lean on me some more. Were you threatening me? You made me to be your enemy's worst nightmare. How bad do you think I'll be towards you? And I got a little freedom, but every couple of years they do stuff. You know how it is being a targeted individual. But the point is there was something to that. What they were saying about marijuana kind of screws up the mindset. As far as they're concerned, the authorities, all right? It's like, what would make anybody think in a free country that they have the right to say that you cannot touch this weed? And you cannot smoke it, ingest it, or anything like that. It just grows where it is. It's natural. You're natural. It's natural. We have natural human rights. What's the deal with that? And now you're going to say, well, we must get these vaccinations, or you're going to take your kids away or something like that. It's like, okay, why does anybody believe any of this is free?
Exactly.
You got people talking about how much of a free country it is, and it's like, well, you're not free to get married if you're gay, and it's kind of like, you know what, you got to ask permission even if you're heterosexual. And what if they say no?
There is no freedom here, and it's an illusion. It's a facade, and it's been a facade. But I think what's really interesting is that it's really showing itself now more than ever. It seems to me like it's encroaching, and we're seeing them for what they really are, these controllers and all these mechanisms that have been put into place.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. It really is.
Well, to me, this is a good thing, because to me, I've been seeing this for a long time. I'm surprised I put up for it as long as I did, even as an ultra. But I mean, I started from birth. That it's kind of like, okay, I understand the drugs, the shocks, all that other kind of stuff they did to me to keep me in line, the threats, the trauma and everything. It's like, what the hell happened to the other 330 million of you?
Right. Well, they're programmed too, and that's another thing. It's a different kind of programming. We talked about the psychotronics. I've been with different levels, and I'm telling you, I'm a firm believer that a lot of these people are actually programmed and probably don't even know it and are being slept.
I think, well, some of the folks I was talking to this week were talking about things, visions and stuff like that. This fella Kip I was telling you about, he was telling me about some vision sitting in a chair and like having his soul pulled out of his head by an octopus. And it's like, I remember something very, very like that. I remember the physical chair.
Interesting.
And, things being pulled out of my head and put into my head, not not necessarily physically, but just the debriefing, trying to give you screen memories and stuff to cover up the jobs that you've done, and that really rarely worked, especially if it was something traumatic that you were in. I mean, it would last for a while, but the minute you close your eyes at night, you'd be dreaming of the bodies and death and destruction that you saw, and and you'd know where these scars and aches and pains came from, and it certainly didn't come from hanging out on your uncle's farm for the summer.
Right.
But I mean, he's describing things, so I believe there's some degree of that psychotronic going on there. I've had it myself, but I ignore it. I am so resistant and used to resisting them and finding myself, and hey, this idea is not my idea. This is not what I want to do. One of the biggest, I think, defenses against that kind of thing is the old adage, over the Delphi Oracle's place there, know thyself. And if you don't know yourself, ask yourself these questions, because it's basically what I did. What do you like? What things rub you the wrong way? Do you really like hurting people? Do you like creating grief for somebody? It's like, no. What do you appreciate? Who's your favorite heroes, and what is it about them that you like best? That's the person you want to be, not that person themselves, but the things about that person that you like the best. That's the things that you want to cultivate in yourself. And when you know yourself, and then they turn around and start offering you these other options, and it's like, that's not me. That's not something I want. I don't roll that way.
Exactly.
So that'll help during that. I'm thinking there might have been a combination of drugs and stuff that worked over my daughter. What was it? The end of March. It was about almost a year ago. I was living in Watertown in this crappy apartment. Actually, I was dying. I mean, I was really literally dying. We'd done a couple shows back then, and I think you've seen some of the pictures of how I was with the ketoacidosis, just eating at me and everything. And then finally my disability thing comes through. I managed to get my hands on the actual physical MRI disc from the hospital. I had to dominate two people to get it. But, when it got up before the judge, and it's kind of like, look, it's easy. What do you got to argue? I said, well, he's not a neurologist. He says, you don't have to be a neurologist. I've done 1,000 different cases. All you got to do is look for the white spots. And when I showed him the white spots, case closed. You're disabled, dude. It's a wonder you're still walking.
Right.
And so then I got awarded the disability. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my daughter's boyfriend worked for TSA in Orlando. We're not going to mention names here, okay? Just to be cool, grant them their privacy. Not that they deserve any great favors, but just to grant them their privacy. But he was working in Orlando, and there were some things going on, and he ended up getting demoted. Well, that's not what he said when we met. But I found out later from some other people that this was the case, and there was something involving some drugs. So evidently some drugs went missing out of some people's luggage or something. And they says, well, you can be transferred. So all of a sudden this fantastic transfer comes up that, they accept him up in, I think in Manchester, up in New Hampshire, up around one of the airports there. And, all of a sudden this house comes up from somebody who was a CIA family once upon a time. They own a house, a wonderful house out in the mountains in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. And it's kind of like, wow, that's great. And it's, well, we even have an extra room for dadums. So as soon as I get my first check in my hand, they come up with a truck, rescue me out of that crappy apartment building in Watertown, and take me off, and they're going to take care of me. And my daughter was doing a great job for a while. It was beautiful up there. I loved being with my grandsons, but I kind of, this targeted individual thing, I kind of get to the point when I do get a good day, I start looking up into the sky, and then people say, what's the matter? What are you looking for? I says, I'm waiting for the piano to fall on me. It's going too good, but I'm happy in My daughter, she's my favorite of all my kids. I mean, not that you really should have favorites, but of all of them, she's the most like me. And we never really had a bad rapport or anything together. And one morning, just around the 11th of January, it's cold, it's freezing. I've been pretty much bedridden since November, just kind of in and out of bed, kind of sick and really feeling crappy. Doing better with the diabetes, but still not really feeling great. It was frozen. And I, get up. I'm having my coffee. They get up later than I do, and just sitting quietly in the kitchen. I got the wood burning stove, and the place is getting warmed up, and we got fresh coffee. I'm enjoying it. Talking to my grandson, and she yells down, Gary, you got to start your homeschooling today. It's a school day. And it's like, okay. And I says, oh, remember, we got to call for these blood tests. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I mean, I couldn't be prepared for this. She never even talked to me in that tone of voice. And we have arguments for fun. I don't mean call each other names or disrespectful, but I like this because, or I don't like that because, or I disagree with this because, and and we have a pretty good time with it. We always did since she was a little girl. Daddy, I don't think I should be grounded for this. Why? Well, there's this, that, and it's like sometimes she might have a point, and it's like, okay, we compromise, and these were always good things. But this wasn't an argument. This was a roaring tirade. And then she ended up reaching over the railing and punching me in the head. And I says, okay, that does it. I figure I go down to my room. I figure, by the end of this month, I'm going to make arrangements to go get the assisted. If she's going to flip out that freaky in one point, smack me in the head, I ain't taking this from anybody. I was not just her dad, but her master. She'd been learning martial arts from the cradle. So had all of her siblings. And it's like, I'm not taking that. But I mean, something happened. Something like this. You just couldn't imagine this happening. Just coming up all of a sudden. We were at my doctor's, the specialist's office, the Thursday before this, and we're all happy and having a good time. And she's talking about how she's been counting the carbs, and she says, I just figured out why his carbs, his sugar glucose levels weren't better. Because I was counting Canadian cups instead of American cups, and the Canadian cups, there's a little more starch involved, So, just a good conversation. It's kind of like all of a sudden there's this roaring, abusive. What the heck happened? Last time I seen somebody like that, they were on like crack cocaine or something.
It's almost like a trigger. It's almost like she got triggered or something.
Yeah, my kids aren't.
She's not an ulcer though. No, she hasn't been programmed, right? Yeah.
No, not that I know of.
Okay, well,
I can't imagine it. And I notice. But she had been spending more and more time kind of, in her room, But, the summer they had a lot of ticks and bugs outside. And Gareth ended up with a little bit of Lyme disease from a tick bite. And most bugs don't like biting me anyway. My blood's even poisonous to myself. So they don't like me much. And besides, I dress and tuck my socks and all that other kind of stuff and check for ticks after I go on walks and, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, nothing to really anticipate. But the only person that comes in and out of her room is her fiance, who works at the TSA, who got demoted from Orlando to there for something to do with drugs of one sort or another. Missing out of somebody's baggage somewhere. You really can't say. Like I say, I'm not mentioning any names or anything like this. Some of this stuff can't be totally substantiated, but when you're looking for what the heck happened that afternoon, that evening, the cops come knocking on the window. I go down in my room, I latch the door, I figure I'm going to make arrangements to leave, but I'm narcoleptic, and especially when I'm sick or stressed, I will sleep easily 14 to 16 hours a day, sometimes as much as 18 or 20 if it's really bad. And, so I just kind of went in and, okay, when I wake up later, I'm going to start making arrangements to get into assisted living. I cannot live alone. I have to have help. somebody to wake me up, make sure I take those 6 shots a day, calculate the carbs, all that kind of stuff, and I can survive it. By myself in Watertown, I was dying. I tried my best, but I can't do it. Excuse me. So, I mean, I need the help. Down here, I'm getting it. Deb and Mitch are helping me now, but I need to be in a facility. And there's loads of them down here. This is like the senior capital of the world for retirement.
Right, yeah.
So there's all kinds of programs, and that's why I'm looking better and I'm starting to do better. But anyway, these cops come 6:30 at night. I'm in the house by myself. Evidently, she called Tom when he come back from work and took her and the boys out quietly, and then they went to the police department in Hillsboro, which is about a 20-minute drive down the mountains from where we live. 6:30 at night, I get a tap at my bedroom window. Get me right out of bed. A couple cops. They're nice. They're polite. They're, it's kind of like, well, your daughter filed a complaint that you cocked your fist and threatened her. Well, she didn't say anything about clocking me upside the head because I had a big, bright bruise right down the right side of my face and temple. It's like, yeah, well, we'll get it straightened out. You know somebody you can stay with, because we got to get you out of the house. She knows I don't have any friends out here. I mean, not at all. In New Hampshire, nobody I could call. All my friends are on Facebook or the internet or something like that, and they're all out of state somewhere. Well, we're going to have to take you out. And it's kind of, well, we'll get you into a hotel. Now, I got like $300 left for the month. I get like $1,100 a month in disability. I gave her $600 for my, renting my room, get groceries and, what utilities I use and that besides. So I only got about $300 left. My insulin's about $130, $140 a vial, and I'm going to need about 2 or 3 vials before the end of the month. And so that's all I got, So if I stay at the motel, I don't get no insulin, I don't get no food. I won't survive. But that wasn't enough. The sheriffs come down, took me up 2 cities away to Manchester, put me in overnight, had the arraignment in the next morning. Now, no eating, no insulin, no, I need my medications, okay? This is a life-threatening situation. Having seizures, I'm sitting in the holding cell with a bunch of druggies and gangsters and stuff like that. Fortunately, I'm a really big guy. And they see me sitting there and my hair's long and I got tattoos arm, and every once in a while I'm twitching, and it's like, somebody looked like he wanted to come over and rouse me, and this big Puerto Rican fellow, no, Happy, you don't want to go there. Leave the guy alone. But the next day, I see the arraign me, and the judge says, well, we'll put you out on a PR bond. I says, I got no place to go. Couldn't you just skip the PR bond, leave me here in the jail? I'll get the insulin 3 meals a day till we get the court thing all settled. He says, well, we're running a jail here, not a homeless center. And it's like, well, give me the name of a homeless center. I'm in freaking Manchester. I've never even been in Manchester, much less on foot with no, my baggage is back at the Hillsboro Police Department. And that's just an overnight bag and my laptops. And they just kind of whisked me right out of the jail. It's a blizzard out there. So this was around lunchtime on Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't until 7 o'clock that night. I don't even know where I'm at, what part of the city I'm in, where to go. I'm looking around. Is there a homeless shelter, a mission? And then I figure, in every town that I know of, within a couple blocks of downtown, there's always a Trailways or a Greyhound. I got $300 left in the bank. Maybe I can get a bus down to Hillsboro. There is no bus that goes to Hillsboro. I found one, but I didn't leave till 7 o'clock at night. I got one to Concord, the next city over. And then from Concord, I had to catch a cab, which was another $60. So it's like, okay, food and insulin is out of the question now. I pick up my papers and my gear at the Hillsboro police thing. They take me down to a motel, which was pretty nice of them. Cheapest motel around, and it's $75 a night. Like I say, there's a blizzard going on. It's below freezing. It's $75 a night. I only have enough for 2 nights, and then it's like you got to walk. Where? There's no place to walk to. The nearest place from there is 8 miles away. And on my best days, because of my health, I wasn't able to make it. And in the winter, in a blizzard, and the snow piled up by the side, ice, not snow, piled up on the sides of the road. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, no way to survive. It's just the long march, no survivable way. So I Skype a few friends, talk to some people on Facebook. Some folks sent me some donations and stuff. And and Deb and Mitch said, well, this would be the best place to come because this is like God's waiting room down here. Old folks everywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, the competition for senior care is incredible down here. So the best choices you got are right here, and we got a spare room, and so we got a bus ticket down. We're still doing without insulin for about a week. This was a total life-threatening situation. I get down here and I get the paper, and she's talking. The paper's her complaint is that I had been threatening our family since she was a child, and she's lived in fear her whole life of me, and she fears for her life and the life of her children around me. And it's like this is just pure garbage.
Wow! After all those years, and what's interesting, it almost sounds like an altar coming out.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Sure does. Sounds to me.
Life was never led. So I replied. I replied, and I replied with facts. I replied with, you can ask this person. These are professional people. This was the diabetes educator that me and her talked to last Thursday. Ask her if it sounds like she had a troubled childhood. The crap about me being violent. Well, when her mom and I split up in a divorce, in order to try to get full custody of the kids, she didn't want me to visit the kids even without, or unless I did get visitation. She wanted church supervision. And those are the last people I wanted, over my shoulder telling me what I could say or not say or be with my own kids. So when we I had to quit my job in Vancouver and come back, and which really put me in a bad way, but I had to show up. And it's like, okay, look, New York state law says if kids suffer any kind of injuries, it's even the slightest bit suspicious. Basically, they got to report it. Has there ever been a cop to my house even for a loud argument? Never. So there's no records of any sort because such things never happened. But the thing about family court is it's not like criminal court. It's like in criminal court, that's baloney now too, but you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. In family court, they can say anything they want. And if you don't show up to say or show otherwise, then it's assumed that, hey, if she says I left him because he's an axe murderer and you don't show up to say otherwise, then the court says, well, she gets custody of the kids because he's an axe murderer. And there you go. Somebody looks up a court record and says, hey, this man was an axe murderer. None of it's true. Well, in this case, I got a thing back from the court that's saying, okay, I can't talk or have anything to do with my daughter again for another year from now. Because I threatened my own family since they were young. And it's like, I sent twice the same letter and documentation, the doctor, the medical records, all the stuff showing what was going on. No, she claimed criminal cocking my fist and threatening. She didn't claim she got hit or anything because she didn't. I got hit, and I cocked my fist like, you don't hit me a second time or I knock your ass out. She's all my girls are like 6 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And like I say, she's been trained literally from the cradle in my house. It's like this is malarkey.
Well, so strange is why would she even invite you to live with her if this is what she had in the back of her head all along? It makes no sense. There's no logic behind it.
It works fine for the judge because evidently the judge and the sheriff were in cahoots. There's the American with Disabilities Act, and it's like, I'm disabled. I'm disabled. They took me out of my sick bed, took me 2 cities away, put me out in a snowstorm with no help whatsoever. I mean, no help. Not even a number or an address of a mission or someplace I could have got help. Mm-hmm. I was finding my way from noon till about 7 o'clock that night in a blizzard. And you're diabetic. You're worried about losing your fingers and toes. And it's like frostbite. I was scared to death, and I'm narcoleptic, and the cold is making me want to go to sleep, mm-hmm. and the narcolepsy is making me want to go to sleep. My skull's pounding. I'm trudging the streets, trying to find my way. You can't see for more than a half a block or so ahead of you. I'm wandering all over the town in wrong directions and that till I finally do find a bus station. It's like, this is ridiculous. But being an ultra, being a targeted individual, hey, it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened to her?
Exactly.
To make her do this? This is daddy's little girl of all of them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm astonished, flabbergasted. It blows my mind all over the place. I
Well,
can't.
yeah, it
It's like
just,
I had hours to think about this and days and weeks after to think about it, and that story's floating.
there's something wrong there. I still think she has an alter. If I had to assess it, I would say she probably has multiple personalities. She has some kind of alter going.
That would have to be it. But I can't imagine that. I've never seen it before.
Right. Well,
Not
that's
in
interesting.
her, not in my kids.
Right.
I know what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
But also these newer generations, like they did Duncan differently than they did me. In my day, I think they had so few successes that they kind of nurtured or cultivated me a little bit. There's some things they wouldn't do because like they didn't have a lot of people that actually survived or were functional for some of the experiments they did on us.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 53 in July 1953. By August, I was among the first groups of infants that were inducted into the MK Ultra programs. So I know a lot of them ended up in bad ways and dead. We considered the dead ones were the lucky ones. Honestly, the ones that weren't were the ones that spent the rest of their lives in mental institutions, howling and screaming and smearing themselves with their own feces. It's like, God, we didn't want anything. I mean, this was the stuff I had to look forward to. But Duncan's day, they'd have them do live fire rounds. It's like, if you offed one, well, he wasn't strong enough anyway. So they got more severe as the generations went on. But I don't recall my daughter being in any kind of programs like this. She's a musician. She travels, goes all over the world, plays music, sings songs. She's great. People say my name. Hey, you sound like you're a rock star. No, that would be my daughter.
That's interesting. Well, they can do programming remotely, so who knows? But it just seems very suspicious because the fact that she invited you to live with her and then that she got triggered and all of a sudden there's this alter and then there's this coming out, that's suppressed data. And on some level, there's something there. So that's
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was no way to expect that morning.
Right. But it is sabotage, and I have noticed that with people who are targeted or MK Ultras, they always seem to have some kind of a saboteur or something happens where it never works out. There's always something that they have to deal with, and most of the time they're never
For me,
secure.
I'd get to be in a place. I'd work there maybe 5 years, but it wouldn't be something that I'd do that screw up. It'd just be somebody, and the only way I know is because I made friends, and there's people that were friendly and loyal to me that I was helpful to, and I like being a nice guy. This is me finding me. I'm not going to do the bad things, and I mean I can, but I choose not to, and they'd say, yeah, there was a couple, they look like feds. They come up and they talk to them and, kind of like, this guy killed more guys than cancer in Vietnam. And if he has a flashback and slips and you've seen how strong he is, you know how many people that guy's going to kill before the cops can come and gun him down. And, next thing you know, I'm unemployed, walking the streets, looking for my next job. Got to accept a job that pays less because you got to get something. You got a family to support. And, this is the normal kind of sabotage that I would see.
Right.
5 years, that's about the time you make vested interest and they start paying into your 401k. It's like, don't give them a future. This man don't get a future. They erase my past, destroy my future. Me, I just take it one day at a time and do the best I can.
Right.
But then this, it's like, hey, I'm with my daughter. I'm with my family. Geez, things are finally working out. Everybody's saying, yeah, you're where you're supposed to be. And it's like, yeah, it's great. I love my grandsons. And bam, it's like, wow,
It's wild. telling you.
Yeah, I don't even, I mean, there's nights I don't even get to sleep just laying up thinking about that. And then I worry, what's going to happen to me here? When's the next piano going to fall on me?
Well, I think the piano's coming for everybody at this point in the continuum, John. We've got
I
so
do
many things
too.
happening here.
This is like I say, this is right on point with what we're talking about. These other people that are experiencing triggering. Now, some of us or some of them, it's not working on, and it's kind of like, okay, guys, this sounds like bad advice, but if you smoke a little reefer, that may be your saving grace. Honest to God. That may be your saving grace. You may get the impressions, you'll get the impulses, but for some reason, because of the effects that does and the way that it makes you think, it tends to screw up the programming somehow. And it's like, I don't advise becoming a pot-soaked pothead the rest of your life where you can't even freaking function or anything like that. But if you do it recreationally now and then, responsibly, like drink responsibly, it's like smoke responsibly. That, honestly, as far as I can tell, with as many people as I've talked to, and that subject gone up, and I mean, I didn't say those things at the time. It's just as I mulled a lot of them over time, it's kind of like there's a lot of that have that in common. And somebody else has made mention of it. Well, they don't like you on smoking pot because it messes with programming. It's kind of like, well, I thought that was silly the first time I heard it, but the more that I've talked to people, and the more I even considered my own little spot and everything, that's probably true. Evidence kind of shows that it may well be true. Points in that direction. So, for some folks, that may be one of, medical marijuana is becoming, that's all right. So that may be the saving grace for a lot of what would be throwaway ultras.
Well, it seems like it's becoming more and more legalized,
Yeah.
So that could be, a lot of people are using it for that. So, yeah,
yes.
I mean, that's a possibility. There's no doubt about it. And beings like myself who are control freaks, we don't touch anything. And,
I like to be that way myself.
That's how I'm wired.
Smelled the stuff in a couple of years, and I'm wondering. Well, I sometimes pick up on the voices and the things myself, and it's kind of like, but I kind of it's not me. I ignore it. It's kind of like that's going to happen. Yeah, it's like vote for Obama, vote for Hillary. That ain't going to happen either. For the same reasons. I have an impulse. I really want to feel this person's face breaking under my fist. Why? This person never did anything to me. Nothing worth. I used to use back in the 70s, about the time I start breaking off from ultras, I found I had certain things that were hard getting around. And I remember how they used sleep teaching on me to teach me Russian or Japanese and stuff like that to send me out on a thing. And it's like, okay, I remember that. So I fixed myself up a looped cassette tape, stuck some pillow speakers under my pillow. And, each night I'd give myself a couple different commands. One was never make permanent solutions to temporary problems. That killed two birds with one stone, or let's say prevented two birds from getting killed with one stone. For one, it made me less apt to be suicidal. Make a permanent solution for a temporary problem. What's hurting you and driving you nuts now may not be the same tomorrow, So don't take a permanent solution to it. It also kept me from killing somebody. This guy is irritating me, something awful. I could just break his neck, throw him down a set of stairs, and he just has a happy accident. And it's like, listen, that's not cool either. Right. It's like, don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You may end up finding you like this guy, or he's having a bad day, or he's got a few lessons to learn, and he ain't such a bad sort after he learns them. So I mean, I do things like that, and that's helped me through some things and kept me from making some bad decisions along the way. But like it says the other. Yeah.
And as the bottom line, we're dealing with a construct of energy. So however we want to manipulate that energy through our own psyche and consciousness. I think you're right. It's spot on about, rewriting your mind insofar as creating your own commands. That's a big deal.
Right.
Everybody should do that, regardless of being.
Like. And if there's something that you like in somebody, your favorite hero, don't try to, go on, hey, you like Sylvester Stallone, so you start talking like Rocky and wearing the same clothes. No, that's superficial crap. It's look for the deep things, because that's the part that resonates with who you really are inside. Things come from the inside. My master used to tell me, the fight starts in the heart. The next place it should go to is your brain for consideration before it ever reaches your fist. But everything starts in your heart, or in your spirit, in your soul, in your center, your core. Find what resonates with your core. You like this about this hero or that person or this person, and it's like that's a piece of you that's resonating. All right, so cultivate that. Mm-hmm. That is the man or woman you want to be or need to grow into. So if you're going to give yourself commands, you're doing it in your own voice. It's easier now than it was, when I was doing it, because I had to finagle up a cassette tape to make it work like that.
And John, we're going to head for a break. Everybody, please stay tuned. We'll be right back here. Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm Solaris BlueRaven.